Welcome back to Weigh In. As you will know, the Champions Day at Wingatui on Saturday was abandoned after race number 1 due to the state of the track. We've got Klein and also Matt Hall with us in just a few moments, but first, this from the first call on Saturday morning.
We've had a really dry month this year where we've had less than half our average rainfall for the month, so it's been pretty trying as far as preparing the track. I've put a lot of water on, which I'm definitely not apologising for. The thing is to have it right for today. We've come out at a dead 4. Yeah, really happy with it.
Okay, so that from the first call on Saturday morning. The Gallop South CEO, Klein, is with us on the line. Andre, thank you very much for your time. This has been a bit of a disaster for everybody, hasn't it?
Oh, look, absolutely, it has for everybody concerned. And it's funny, I hadn't heard, Wayne's interview with you on Saturday, and he was confident in his management in regards to track preparation for Saturday. And to be honest with you, I still stand by his actions. And quite confident he did probably all he could do. Everyone was aiming for the same outcome. I think we've what's been reported, we've underplayed the weather that we actually got on course on the day. Just prior to that race, where we get this misty rain, it's like a foggy dew kind of over the race course. And I think whether it irrigated as much as he had or hadn't, we would have endured. If we got anything better than a dead track, we would have endured the same outcome that we had on Saturday.
Okay, so you're confident that the best surface was presented the morning of the races?
Yeah, look, I think so. Look, it's impossible. Look, we've got limited resources, but we've got a guy, a track manager who's 100% professional, does a fantastic job. No one would have been more upset in New Zealand than he would have been that the race meeting had failed. It's not an amateur outfit here. We pride ourselves on doing things as professional as we can. He's studied hard, and he knows the grass and the lay of the land here at Wingatui better than anybody. We race 12, 13 times a year, and generally we're renowned for providing a fantastic racing surface. We saw that on Boxing Day. We had 3 as a magical track. Everyone's pleased. We have endured the hottest December, followed by the hottest and driest January. That we've got on record. I think Wayne intimated there that we've just over 20 mils of rain and hot temperatures. I can tell you, even today it's 29 degrees in the run up to this race meeting, which has made management of the grass very difficult. What Wayne's aimed for, I suppose, in trying to provide a dead 4 track, is a safe track. We got that misty hour, which was just provided the moisture on the surface of the course on race day, and he was hoping there'd be enough moisture in the track to alleviate any concerns that may cause. And on this occasion, he haven't got it right. It is interesting, though, Darryl. You get the race course, as you can imagine, was absolutely chock full of experts on Saturday. You've got both ends of the spectrum. So you've got a lot of people saying the club should have irrigated more, because the locals are aware of what this weather pattern can do. I mean, they've been here and they've seen and they've experienced what weather we've endured over the last 6 weeks. Others are saying we shouldn't have irrigated at all. Well, that's crazy, because I think if we'd ended up with anything better than what we got anyway, with that kind of weather, with that misty rain, we would have probably had a similar situation.
Yeah,
the key goal for the club now is working out what we're going to do in regards to Friday, because anyone who's been following the situation closely looks at the weather forecast for the next few days. We've been promised a lot of rain for the last week in Dunedin, and I think 1 mil overnight. Dunedin's received a lot of rain. Wingatui hasn't. The other side of the hill hasn't. So we're sitting here today from promised thunderstorms and heavy rain, and we're sitting under a pretty beautiful sky, to be honest, and 28 degrees.
All right, Andre, appreciate your time for coming on Weigh In and giving us an explanation there. Let's go to Matt Hall. He's the General Manager of Racing and Operations for NZTR. He's with us from Wellington. Matt, good evening to you. First of all, obviously it's very, very disappointing, this situation, and had it been an isolated case, that may have been something we could have dealt with. But look, this has happened now 7 times, I think, in this season alone, over the space of 7 months. It seems a bit of a problem.
Well, I'm not sure about 7, Darryl, but certainly there's 3 abandonments that have been obviously particularly similar in nature, and they've occurred at Ashburton in late October, the Levin meeting at Otaki late November, and then on the weekend. There have been some other abandonments for different reasons as well. Certainly the circumstances that led to the abandonment of Saturday's meeting and also the meetings at Ashburton and Otaki are really quite disappointing from an NZTR point of view, because you're talking about sort of light rain on race day, which can happen any time, and we're talking about very important race meetings. There was black type races on each occasion on those programs. So we need to, I don't think we can sort of say, oh well, this was a one-off. In each of those circumstances there are a number of unique weather factors that contributed, and so I do have a lot of sympathy for the clubs in terms of how they went about preparing those tracks. However, from an industry-wide point of view, we need to look back now and say, okay, this has happened 3 times, it's affected 3 really important meetings. Is there something that we can do differently to try and prevent
Paul Shaler speaking. Excuse me, can I just butt in for a second? You say it's disappointing for the clubs because of the turnover and the major race. What about the safety of the jockeys? What is, these jockeys are going out there, race 1. If that horse fell and that jockey, like forbid I say it, had a head injury and passed away, where would we be then? Will we finally do something about it then?
Oh look, the safety of the jockeys
I don't care about the $50,000 race that was on the card, or what about the safety of the jockeys who are going out there putting their life on the line week after week and going out on skate rinks and tracks that have been, like, someone's got to be held responsible for this.
Oh look, Paul, the safety of the jockeys is absolutely paramount, and the RIU are obviously there to monitor that, and these meetings obviously haven't proceeded. Now, I agree it's a concern that we can't pick up these issues in advance of running the first race. I mean, the Otaki one's slightly different. There were 3 races run before the track sort of started to become unsafe. So in those circumstances, it's probably a little bit different. But yeah, look, I agree. And the safety of jockeys is of absolute paramount concern to NZTR and to the RIU and to the race clubs. And that's why we need to go away now and have a look at our irrigation practices and equipment, etc. Because the expectations of participants have changed in terms of irrigating tracks. They continue to change, and it becomes clearer all the time that trainers and owners are expecting to be able to run their horses on tracks with give and tracks that are safe, obviously, for riders and for horses. So, we need to bear that in mind because it's just the nature of the way tracks are irrigated historically in New Zealand that we may need to have a look at.
So, Matt, are you confident that the people doing the job, the racecourse managers and the committee, the clubs, are doing the job? Are they doing the job properly to satisfy you? I mean, are we employing the right people? Are these track managers, are they fully qualified? Do they have agricultural qualifications, or are we just employing any Tom, Dick or Harry off the street to come and grow some grass and send a tractor around it, cut it, throw some sprinklers on it?
Look, Paul, it varies from track to track, obviously.
Why?
Why
would it vary from track to track? Why would every course not have to have a fully qualified agricultural, whatever qualifications you need to do this? Why would Why do we employ someone that has no qualifications in turf or agriculture?
Well, there's no evidence that's necessarily the case, Paul. I mean, a number of racecourse managers
I'd like someone to show me this, the stats.
Well, look, there's a number of racecourse managers around Australasia and the world that have learnt their craft. They've come up as apprentices and they've learnt their craft. It's a very specialised skill and they're considered among the leading racecourse managers in the world, and they usually receive horticultural training along the way, you know, and that's the sort of career path that is taken. But these guys need to have a really sound understanding of the racing industry, you know, as well as agronomy and all of those other issues. So, you know, I think it's sort of a bit simplistic to say that we're just not employing the right people and we need to you know, go away and start again. And,
no, I wasn't saying that, Matt. I wasn't saying we're not employing the right people. I was asking if we are. That's what I'm not saying we're employing the wrong people. I was just asking if the people that we are employing have the full qualifications of a turf manager or an agricultural qualification. That's all I said. I didn't say we're employing the wrong people. I was asking if we were employing the right people.
Well, you know, I believe that that we are in the vast majority of cases. There's a lot of racecourses in New Zealand. A lot of them are prepared by volunteers, by farmers who've got, you know, lots of experience, and you know, these tracks might be racing once a year, and then right up to our major venues. Now, Wayne Stevens at Wingatui is one of our most experienced and best racecourse managers. He's got a lot of experience preparing tracks at Wingatui. And he's also been a trainer of racehorses, and he's very, very well regarded within the industry. And I believe that, you know, he's done everything that he could do on this occasion, given the weather circumstances leading into the meeting over the weeks leading in, and the irrigation infrastructure at his disposal. Now, obviously, that's what we need to go away and look at and say, can we change the way we think about irrigating racetracks in this country? And that's, I totally accept that as an industry, that's something that we need to look at. But you know, what has been done historically is sort of now we need to go back and revisit.
Yeah, that was going to be my question actually, Matt, in terms of the irrigation before a big race day. Is we seem to be a country wanting to get our tracks to a dead 4 before the first race. Is that kind of a policy at NZTR? Are you telling the racecourse managers around the country to get in summertime, get their tracks to a dead 4 before the first race, or is it left for each club to decide?
No, ideally the policy is a good 3, Ken, but that is obviously sort of, track managers have to make decisions based on the weather forecast for the day, and obviously there's pressure from trainers to ensure that tracks don't become too firm throughout the meeting. So that's something that track managers have to weigh up, particularly if they're going to be racing on a day where it's going to be particularly hot. We've seen extended hot, dry conditions over the past you know, couple of months now, so in various parts of the country. So that's the type of thing that track managers need to weigh up. Yeah, there's certainly a lot greater emphasis these days on making sure that tracks have sufficient give, you know, to look after horses, and so, you know, I think irrigation's become more prevalent throughout the country, and it may be that we just need to look at exactly how we're putting it on, how early, and whether or not we can irrigate more significantly further out from a meeting. It may be that that's not appropriate in New Zealand conditions, given the greater likelihood of rain here than what you'd experience in Australia, for example. But all of these things are what we need to consider, and you know, NZTR is committed to looking into this with the clubs and working with the clubs.
Okay, just quickly wrapping up, Matt. I read on the website $200 per runner has been offered to Connections as compensation. What about the riders who have tripped down from the North Island, for example? Do the riders get any compensation?
There is compensation for jockeys also, Darryl. Now, the compensation for owners and jockeys is a flat compensation, and we acknowledge that it doesn't necessarily represent the full extent of the costs that they've incurred. It's a policy that was put in place, I believe, sort of in the middle of last year, and which is designed to compensate participants to the best extent that the industry deems it can and it can afford to do. And obviously these costs are all borne by NZTR. So basically the jockeys will be compensated. They'll receive the equivalent of 1.5 riding fees, I believe, and $200 per horse. Now, and I fully accept that that may be insufficient to cover the costs of some riders and also some horses. So, but that's the policy that we've got in place at the moment.
All right, appreciate your time. Matt Hall with us, the General Manager of Racing and Operations from NZTR. Just quickly, it just seems like we overwater. Is that a fair assumption?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think maybe that the irrigation systems that some clubs have in place are not up to standard, I would imagine, because they simply can't afford them. I mean, some clubs still water their racetracks with a truck, don't they? They drive around and around. I mean, that's just Mickey Mouse, that stuff. Or a sprinkler that comes out from the inside fence and goes, and they've got no irrigation from the outside, and on a windy day, it'll blow 3 or 4 horsewidths off the fence, and the outside track doesn't. I mean, it's just, if you can't afford it and they're not going to fund it, just
don't
take
do any
them.
at all.
Don't have them. No, don't even have the race club. They clearly haven't got the resources to hold a race meeting. So why would you hold one there? Maybe we need to think about that. Just cutting our racetracks right back and having our main courses, Te Rapa, Ellerslie. I don't know. Just
put more investment into them to make them
put more investment into them.
Yeah.
I just don't understand, and like I said, I don't give a stuff about prize money, horses missing it, but until a jockey gets seriously hurt, and there will be an issue. There will be issues. There will be repercussions from it, and it's just not good enough.
It strikes me that we're trying to replicate something which has been kind of a rule, and particularly in racing Victoria since about 2006, I understand, where they want to be a dead 4 before the first race, and a lot of things in New Zealand, whether it be in racing or other sports as well, we think, well, that's a good idea, let's try it here. Well, does it really work here? Is it as necessary here as it might be in, say, Victoria? No. I'm not so sure. And even if you read some of the literature emanating on various websites from Racing Victoria and Victorian racing as a whole, they're not convinced that's the right rule either. So I think the whole thing has to be re-looked at.
All right, there's plenty to debate, and I'm sure you've got an idea on it, and you can contact us via social media to air your thoughts. Just quickly, Kiwi riders making headlines this week. Michael Walker now leads the Victorian Jockeys Premiership. Twiggy seems to be having an absolute field day, particularly with this stable, the Hayes Dabeneg team. Yeah, no, he's on fire, isn't he? He's obviously one of our great talents, Michael, and very colourful character, and he's had his ups and downs through his career, but he's obviously got into the Hayes Dabeneg camp, and he's really
right here. He just picked this horse up and threw it across the line. Gracious prospect in the last. Yeah, and he's right at the top of his game, isn't he? Yeah, right at the top of his game. He's focused, obviously, and you say he's a leading jockey in Victoria. Yeah. All right, and James McDonald taking a further step to become sort of fully freelanced by, I guess, breaking the shackles from Team Hawkes to some degree. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Of course, quite a bit of comment last week in the media channels over there in Australia, and Hawksy wasn't very happy, was he, Paul? And I don't think the Snowdens weren't very happy either, were they, about it? He's never happy, Hawksy, but I mean, he's a brave man, James, taking on Hawksy. I mean, I doubt he'd be getting many more rides off him, that's for sure. Well, it's a good 3-year-old, isn't it? Shooting to win. Is that one of the... Oh, Snowdens, isn't it? Snowdens going down the Caulfield, I think. And I think they're looking for a new jockey, but Godolphin, get a chance to ride for the Godolphin, you'd have to put your hand up, wouldn't you? Yeah, I know, but there's, a lot of the Godolphin horses, they go to Dubai, they show promise, and they take the top class ones to Dubai, so... I don't know, obviously he knows what he's doing, but I just hope he hasn't shot himself in the foot, that's all. Okay, and there's a good group of Kiwi horses that are about to, I think one of them's already gone, Sacred Falls, but there's a lot of Kiwis heading to Australia for the championships, and I know Silent Achiever is one of them, and I believe she's pretty prime for a crack at the Apollo first up. Yeah, look, she's a quality mare, isn't she? She'll be up for anything of the sort of you'd think. Be interesting to see from Stephen Hunt maybe in the next week's show in terms of when the books will be open for some of those great Australian races over the Easter over there, with the likes of the Doncaster, the AJC Derby, Sydney Cup, etc. So Look, we've got some really quality horses, haven't we, going around New Zealand at the moment. It'll be great to see how they front up over in Australia.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think,
Turn Me Loose being one of them.
Yeah, he's going over there. He'll be there for the Guineas, and I mean, he's a quality animal, isn't he? And
I heard a bit of a rumour that he didn't troll that well at Cambridge the other day, Turn Me Loose.
really?
Yeah, someone was telling me the other day out that way. I'm sure. The same person told me Atlante was huge, but Turn Me Loose wasn't as good. But may not be quite tuned up.
Yeah, wouldn't be too concerned. I wouldn't imagine. I think he'll come race day. Then puts his best foot forward.
Exactly.
I think Silent Achiever. I think this is her last campaign. She goes to Australia, and I think they're going to target the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe.
Yep.
Is that right? And
Yep.
she'll go to Frankel.
No, not Frankel.
No, not Frankel.
No,
Australia.
it's Galileo.
Galileo. She's served by Galileo. So that'll be a valuable yearling, won't it?
Yeah. And look, just before we go, you must be really looking forward to what's been known as International Day there at Te Rapa this coming weekend. I guess you've billed it Ladies' Day as well?
Yeah, we've got a big marquee there. We're trying to get as many ladies as possible. A lot of promotions going on there in the marquee, so come along to Te Rapa if you possibly can. The Herbie Dyke, of course, worth 300,000 now, guys. Wait for Age, the NRM Sprint. Just if you look through the list of winners of that race, Sedekram, Tit for Tat, at Courier Bay, a bit like us, just a who's who, with Sunline, of course, winning a couple of times. It'll be a great day's racing in Te Rapa. It's really one for the purists, big old day, good horses running.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you making the effort.
You have to sit in this seat.